Hi, my name's Austin Derrickson, and today I'll be taking you through an interesting encounter in Quake's E1M2 map that I enjoy. First off, I'll take you through the pre-encounter. There's 3 grunts out here, and this is the most basic ranged enemy in the game. So it's nothing really too intense, and it's kind of light pacing-wise, since you just went through a few more grunts to get over here, and you had an ogre and a wraith. I forgot what that one's called. So pacing wise, it's kind of low. There's not really too much difficulty in these ranged grunts. I mean, they usually die in one hit if you do decide to attack them. But what's really interesting, and I'll get into it right now, with the main encounter that I want to discuss, but you don't really seeing any, or you really are seeing all the enemies. So none of them are really hidden from you. At least, I think the only one that I would count as hidden would be these knights that the wall comes down and you're kind of surprised by them. But other than that, you're always really seeing the enemy. It's never really too much of a surprise. And they're all on mainly the same eye level, unless they're a character that is floating or is required to. So there's not a lot of verticality when looking. So if we go back to the main door and start the encounter, we can see immediately that there's an ogre. So as soon as we open the door, there's an ogre right in our face, which contrasts the pacing beforehand really nicely, as there's only 2 or 3 grunts that we had to defeat. So it's not really any difficulty, and the pace and the difficulty had a quick spike. So if we go through this ogre, we can see immediately that there's another ogre. And that's going to be the second thing we see. And usually they spawn right about here, so they'll also attack the player right away. So it's really a good contrast, since you're facing only 2 or 3 grunts here, and then all of a sudden you have 2 ogres, which are one of the more heavier and harder characters. So now if we go through and we see, turn off no clip, so we can see that after defeating that enemy, there's this big cool area, and this kind of focal point of the doors and the buttons is kind of drawing your eye. So if we go over here and we press the button, we can see it opens, and there's immediately a melee enemy in here. And I think this contrast really, or not contrast, I think this plays really nicely into the map, as the map is built up to kind of draw the player's eye over here. And so, especially with how this wall is cornered, instead of making it a square box, it's curved, so you kind of see this area immediately and are drawn towards it. So this melee enemy, and it plays in really nicely because it kind of tricks the player into having their eyes focused on this part when the actual objective is behind them. But the next kind of interesting part that I really like is that I think this map plays in well with the enemy AI and how their kind of roles. Since there's a melee, as soon as you stand here, you're within what seems to be like 4 units, 3 to 4 units of this melee enemy, which this melee enemy can jump and kind of spring forward. So it really plays in nicely, since its role is supposed to be up close, and your first encounter with it is up close. Furthermore, I really like how this map plays into allowing the enemies to flank the player. So if we go over here, you're not really seeing this enemy that's tucked away over here. So since this wall is cornered, once you go through here, you're kind of focused, and then there's an enemy right behind you that can flank you. And furthermore, once these walls go up, you really see these 2 grunt enemies that are above that are ranged. So these 2 ranged enemies, so you have a nice balance between these kind of heaviers, ranking up the difficulty and definitely increasing the pace from before, but also kind of the flow, because usually once you kill these 2, you're not really moving past these, since these are more aggressive enemies, usually pushed outward, and you usually kill these 2, and then you come over here, and it's very kind of low intensity. And then once you open it, obviously with these enemies flanking behind you, another ogre up there, and 2 ranged enemies, the pace goes in, it's ramped up very much. Furthermore, the flow of this map is really nice, since it allows you, as soon as these walls open up, to kind of explore more and have more verticality. So if I go no clip, and I can go through, and I have a lot of more angles and opportunities to attack like the melee enemy that can't really get up here. So I have an opportunity before they attack me. If I go into one of these portals, kill these two enemies, I have a lot more time and opportunities to defeat them without really having as much risk. But yeah, that for the most part, that's the whole encounter that I really enjoy. Obviously, I can go more in depth into up here and how the end of the game and kind of the end of the map, like this is kind of the penultimate of the map, or the right before the exit. So the difficulty obviously is going to be difficult, but I think this gets the point across of why I think this is not only an interesting encounter, but a very iconic encounter in Quake. But that's going to be it today, and thank you.